play that rock and roll, where we take a look at the albums and artists of the classic rock era. So, who do you think is the best guitar player of all time?
Is it Jimi Hendrix, Eddie Van Halen, Keith Richards, Jimmy Page? Every so often, a major publication will attempt to make a list for the best ever, and they all inevitably shuffle around this same group of guys. One of those guys will always be Eric Clapton, and justifiably so. The man has spent some 50 years innovating and perfecting guitar music through his expansive career. Since there are plenty of books and documentaries detailing this career, I feel the only way I can pay tribute to the man is by counting down my top 10 favorite songs from his arsenal.
But I really do need to stress that these are just my favorites.
To be honest, I'm not a big blues fan, and that's like half his career. So this list will be neglecting a huge part of who Clapton is. My point is, everybody has their favorites, so take this and any list I make with a grain of salt.
So, without further ado, I give you the top 10 songs by the Forever Man, Slowhand, God, Eric Clapton. Hit it!
Number 10. Like many classic rock artists, the 1980s were full of ups and downs for Eric Clapton. In 1985, Clapton was feeling pressure from his label to deliver a hit. So in order to do this, he recruited collaborators Lindsey Buckingham, Steve Lukather, and Phil Collins while expanding his own guitar contributions for his Behind the Sun record. The result was his best album in years, which featured hits with She's Waiting and Forever Man. My favorite song on the record is a deep cut called Tangled in Love, which takes our number 10 spot.
I got tangled in love, tangled in love. I got tangled in love, tangled in love.
This is definitely the black sheep of today's list, as I bet most people don't even know it. Honestly, it's just a cool little song that shows the value of a good production.
I got tangled in love, tangled in love.
Number 9. Clapton's music ranges everywhere from the iconic hard rock of Cream to mealyworm adult contemporary garbage like Change the World.
I'm not really a fan of Clapton's soft rock, but I can't say that he never got it right.
I'd get off on 57 Chevys. I'd get off on screaming guitar.
Money and Cigarettes is not a great record, but I've Got a Rock and Roll Heart is a soothing tribute to the genre.
Got it rock and roll, I've got it rock and roll.
It's only rock and roll, but he likes it. And in the case of this song, so do I.
Number 8. The 1980s was a very commercial decade, so many people seem to presume that this required an absence of artistic integrity.
Which is a very lazy and wrong-headed assumption of commercialized popular music.
Did some established artists sell out? Absolutely. Did some of that music suck? No question. But is it fair to characterize all or even the majority of that decade's music as such?
Of course not. In fact, some of Clapton's best work comes out of that period.
It's in the way you use it. Boy, don't you know.
How can you object to Clapton's guitar meeting a crisp production? There's nothing wrong with going pop as long as the artist builds on what they're known for. By the way, this song is from a film soundtrack. I've never seen The Color of Money, but damn if this song doesn't make me want to play pool. The man knows how to set a mood.
Alright, no more 80s. For now, let's take a look at a different period.
Number 7. In my top 10 list of Fleetwood Mac, I celebrated 2 songs, Monday Morning and Secondhand News, for being straightforward and simple. Good old-fashioned rock and roll. Clapton was no stranger to this, as he produced many songs like these throughout the 1970s.
Although none better than our number 7 pick.
Lay down, son. There's no need to leave so soon. I've been trying all night long to talk to you.
I know my first 3 songs put me out of step with most Clapton fans, but it's hard to argue this one. It's a radio staple as well as a fan favorite. Lay Down Sally is just a good song. Number 6.
Eric Clapton spent his early career in a lot of different bands, but never for very long with any of them.
Derek and the Dominos? 1 album. Blind Faith? 1 album. The Yardbirds? Barely 1 album.
By the way, the Yardbirds suck. How do you go through Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck with absolutely nothing to show for it?
Anyway, Cream is really the only band most people associate with Clapton.
And while we're at it,
there's a number of Cream songs that almost made this list. Crossroads, Badge, Toad, and so on. I picked these 2 because they represent the best of not only the band, but 1960s hard rock as a genre. I prefer White Room because both Clapton's guitar and Ginger Baker's drums kick it up a notch. But if you ask Ginger Baker, I'm sure he'd take all the credit.
Jack brought it in as going ding back, diddy back. That's where Jack's head is writing. And I said, man, that's terrible. Why don't you slow it down and play it backwards? Another one is White Room, the 5/4 bolero that makes it. Da, bum, 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 da. It wasn't written like that. Jack wrote it in 4/4. He now declares I wrote it in 5/4.
Ginger Baker may be the greatest drummer of all time, but man, what an asshole.
Number 4.
After midnight, we gon' let it all hang down.
Any Clapton fan worth his salt knows that he was deeply inspired by guitarist J.J. Cale. He launched his solo career with a cover of Cale's After Midnight, and what may be his final studio record is a tribute album to the man. 17 years after he first covered After Midnight, Michelob Beer approached Clapton for an ad campaign. What resulted was a tacky commercial.
The night belongs to Michelob.
Set to a great song. I don't much like Clapton's original cover, or even J.J. Cale's original song, but this version is fantastic. It makes me feel like I'm in some smoky blues bar. Like I said before, the man knows how to set a mood. Also, a fun fact. When these commercials hit the air, Clapton was checking himself into rehab for, you guessed it, alcoholism. Michelob promptly terminated the contract. Number 3.
Eric Clapton did good by J.J. Cale.
Cocaine was also written by Mr. Cale, and Clapton's 1977 cover of it is excellent. But it's not the studio version finding itself on this list. I've said before, I love live albums. I think they're a great opportunity for a band to build upon their sound. And every now and again, the live version is actually an improvement over the studio cut. If Clapton's set at Live Aid had ever been officially released, this version of She's Waiting would have been high on this list.
She's waiting, yes.
Anyway, Clapton often used cocaine as a vehicle for his guitar noodling, and the solo from 1980's Just One Night is in top form. Just awesome. Coincidentally, this album's version of After Midnight almost made this list too. Number 2. One of the things I'm trying to say with this list is that Eric Clapton knew how to build a production around his guitar. Another example of this is his 1989 album, Journeyman, which was heralded as his return to the blues. It's a good record, and it features his best song of the decade.
That's when she said she was pretending, just like she knew the plan. When I knew she was pretending.
Pretending is what you get when you mix the best elements of 80s production with Clapton's guitar. It's tight, it's focused, and it rocks.
That's a jam. I think my favorite bit is how the guitar parts are woven into the chorus. Now, before we get to the big surprise at number 1, here are my picks for the top 3 cover versions of Eric Clapton songs.
You are wonderful tonight.
Number 3.
Let it rain, let your love rain down on me. Let it rain, let it rain, let it rain, rain, rain.
I don't know anything about this band. I stumbled upon this cover when researching this episode, and I must say I like it. I know that doesn't sound like a glowing endorsement, but the pool of Clapton covers really isn't that vast. Clapton spent much of his career performing covers himself, so other versions of Knockin' on Heaven's Door, I Shot the Sheriff, or Before You Accuse Me aren't applicable because they aren't Clapton originals.
Still, this cover of Let It Rain gets a thumbs up from me.
You are wonderful tonight.
Number 2.
It can be hard to criticize an artist or genre you like, but it's even harder to give credit to an artist or genre you dislike.
Got me on my knees, begging, darling, please. Baby, won't you ease my breaking heart?
I am not a big fan of country music, and I am certainly not a fan of Charlie Daniels. But his take on Layla is well done.
But then again, it's really hard to fuck up Layla.
Oh, wait.
You are wonderful tonight.
Number 1.
Like I said, there's not a whole lot of covers of Eric Clapton songs. Before I began work on this episode, I only knew of one. But it is a good one.
In the sunshine of your
Covering Sunshine of Your Love was very appropriate for Living Colour, because like Cream before them, they were a groundbreaking band. At the time, there was a lot of people who believed these guys were the future of rock and roll.
Unfortunately, that did not pan out. They're a really good band. Now, I'm sure you think you know what number 1 is. But stick around. There still might be some surprises.
Number 1.
Yeah, it's Layla. There's no surprises.
How could this not be number 1? It's one of the greatest songs of all time, and for me, the quintessential epic rock song. You can keep your Hotel California, you can keep your Stairway to Heaven, because Layla has got it all.
This song, in many ways, represents the entire genre of classic rock. And with good reason.
The riff and solos are iconic, thanks in part to the late Duane Allman. The production is stellar, the lyrics are moving, and then there's that closing piano solo.
Absolutely beautiful. It's a perfect song. So there you have it. My top 10 songs by Eric Clapton. So, what do you think of the list? Whatever. We'll see you next time.
If Cream did not invent heavy metal, they certainly were part of a band of brothers that were very instrumental in facilitating it.
The birth of heavy metal should have been aborted.
Eric Clapton, Yeah, man.
Okay, so he's good.